What is up, regular boys? So we're out here today with the boys making some skimboards. First step is buy this wood. Got to get the right wood. I'm not I think it's 1/2 inch. Doesn't really matter what kind you get, just get like good kinds. I don't know, I think we got like fir or something. And yeah, get 4x8 sheet for each person. Next, what you're gonna want to do is mark out how you want to cut the board. Usually what you do is you get a piece of paper, like a big piece of construction paper, and then you cut out half of it on the paper, so then you can just trace that and put both sides so then they're symmetrical. Next step is to cut on the lines that you made. Right now we got Oliver measuring to see where he wants to cut his.
Sand it.
Next up is to sand it. You just sand that baby. You can sand the bottom. It's not like necessary. And all you do is you just go around sanding the top edge. So then it's nice and round. So then you don't get cut on it or anything. Finished sanding. Got the bottom that's just a little bit sanded, and then the top that's more sanded so you don't like cut your toe on it or anything. So right now we're soaking them so then we can warp them. So we put them in a pool and then we put weights on them so then they sink to the bottom. So after they've soaked, we soaked ours overnight, then you warp them. And so what you'll do here is we put these little bricks on the sides, and then in the middle, we just put weights. You can put more or less weight or smaller bricks, or you can clamp them for more or less rocker. Next thing to do after you've got your board nice and warped is to paint it. And you don't have to do this, but we like to do it just because it looks sick. So we got some spray paint. So he's gonna do a blue background of spray paint, and then he's gonna have this, he made a stencil, so then he's gonna spray paint over that and then paint that part white, so then there'll be like a white shark with the blue background, so that'll be sick. Right now we're laying down the stencil, and then we're gonna tape it down with just regular masking tape and then spray paint over it. Put all the masking tape on the bottom side of this, and now just sticking it to it, and then we'll spray paint. Next step is to let it dry before you take the stencil off. So after you've got the spray paint down, if you want to do any like technical line work or like brush work, then do that. Almost done painting, got most of the base done, and then the details are going in right now. So now after the paint's dried, we're onto the epoxy. And so what you're gonna want to do is get epoxy and get this Envirotex light that we got, and do equal parts hardener to resin. And we suggest doing 4 ounces of each, so 8 ounces on each side, and doing four coats, so 2 on each side of the board. So after you have equal parts of both, then what you're gonna want to do is pour them both into a separate container, and then mix them around with a brush. That's what we're doing, and then pour it on and just paint it all on. Make sure it's nice and mixed around so there's not any pockets of hardener that harden too fast or just resin. Make sure to wear gloves so you don't get dead from the epoxy. Now what you're gonna want to do is just pour it evenly, especially around the edges of the board, and not too close to the edge, so like about a couple inches in and then just spread it all around with the brush. We just got our brushes at the Dollar Tree, like a bunch of brushes for $1, and these sponge brushes work really well. So now just spread it around nicely with the brush and make sure to get the edges really nicely, because the edges are the most important part, because they'll like run into things and can get chipped, so you want those to be nice and waterproof and strong. Also, if there are any imperfections in the wood, like knots or things, you want to fill those in with epoxy to make it nice and smooth. And then once you're done, you just want to let it sit for about at least a couple hours, maybe like 8 hours. So we waited overnight for this to dry, and so right now we poured both of them, the mixes, into there, and now we're mixing them up, and we're doing the first coat on the bottom. And as you can see, there are these little bumps that aren't good, but we'll wait till later to sand them down. We got the second coat all on, so now we just need to let it sit. So we're mixing up the third coat of epoxy to do the top again. Finishing up with the third layer, putting it on nice and evenly, doing a lot on the edges to make it nice and strong. So now, after doing the second coat on the top and the third coat overall, we're sanding down the bumps on the bottom to make it nice and smooth, and then we'll do the last coat to completely smooth out the bumps, and so it's just a nice smooth bottom that goes really well on the top of the water. After you've sanded off the bumps from the epoxy on the bottom, you want to make sure to wipe all the excess like dust from it off, and then you're on to your final coat of epoxy. So right now Peter's doing the last coat, making sure on top of those sanded down bumps to fill them in around it so then they're not sticking out. So after he's done with this last coat, he just needs to let it sit for a day or two at least, and then we'll be able to test it out.